Welcome to West USA Weekly, the podcast, your go-to source for everything real estate in Phoenix, Arizona. We're breaking down market trends, local insights, and the moves that matter most to Valley agents. Interviews, tips, and the latest from one of Arizona's top brokerages, all in one place. Let's dive in.
Good morning, West USA. Welcome to Black Monday. Black Monday. We have nothing to live for now for the next months. 7 to 8 months. Now that the football season's over,
our wives are happy.
No, now my wife's going to see me more. I think that this is Black Monday for my wife as well. Yeah. All right. Appreciate everybody joining us today. A little sneak peek that we got coming up. Of course, we got Todd and Art here to give us a look at the numbers. Justin Frederick here to give us our mortgage a minute. I'm going to give you 3 tips to handling buyers who just say, we're just looking.
Oh, that group.
Yeah, and then we got What's Up Buttercup with Kyle Fouts. So looking forward to his depth this morning. Okay. I know Kyle's listening right now. All right. As always, if you've got any comments or questions, please feel free to email us at podcast@westusa.com. Let's jump into the announcements. Man, I think I did this like on Thursday, so we're gonna have to get through this together, Nick.
Here for you, buddy.
All right. All right. So we've got a class on the AAR pre-qualification form, 3 CE hours of contract law. This is going to be taking place in person at the Chandler office tomorrow between 1 and 4 p.m. All right, navigating divorce transactions for realtors. That is coming up tomorrow as well, 10 to 1 p.m. at the corporate office up here, and this is going to be 3 hours of legal issues. And as always, you can find these events on the West USA calendar. All you have to do is go to your dashboard, click on the calendar, and click on the event, get signed up for it. If you're not with West USA, you're more than welcome to join us. Just go to westusacalendar.com. All right, another CE class. This is a busy week of CE classes. Jeez. 3 hours of legal issues on Wednesday with Todd. This is going to be a virtual one, so this is one that you get to do in your jammies.
Wherever you want.
All right. I'm going to do it. Next? Okay.
Yep.
All right. I am starting a clothing line, and the first one is the first shirt that I'm selling says, "Friends don't let friends get solar." Lease
solar is what that really should say.
Yeah. So we got a class, 3 hours of CE credit. Don't get burned by solar. This is going to be Thursday between 1 and 4 p.m. But that's a good point, Todd. Know the difference between paying cash, leasing it, getting a loan on it, know your break-even points. So get signed up for that one as well. All right, Media Room Mastery with Dave Getz. This is going to be in the Chandler office on Wednesday from 11 to 12. So learn how to get behind the camera.
One of the more accomplished YouTube pages from any agent I've seen. Now it's not real estate related, but he's very good at this type of stuff. So that's cool that he's doing this class.
All right, we'll get signed up for it. All righty, and then creative marketing that actually works as opposed to the other kind of marketing that doesn't work. So that is coming up. When is that coming up? Wednesday at 10 a.m. All right, that's going to be at the Chandler office as well.
Nice. Lydia is one of our agents, and she crushes it.
Yeah.
All right.
Look at the Chandler agents getting out there. Love that.
All right. Well, again, go to the dashboard, calendar, get signed up, or you can scan that QR code real fast, but probably not fast enough because we're going on to the next class, and we're going to wrap up with Mark Poisson's set sale course, a 7-week class. This is a great class, especially if you're new or really struggling putting together your business plan, and if you're slow, if you're not hitting your numbers, this class is for you.
Yeah. It's not just for new people.
Yeah, so reach out to Mark, get signed up for it. These take place at the Chandler office as well. All right, Todd, take it away. What's going on with the real estate market?
Yeah, Mark will help you put some wind behind your sail. Oh, no pun intended. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, I know. Where's the bell? Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Today we're going over the Greater Phoenix Metro market statistics for the week ending February 9th. Let's go right into our numbers. I will also say that later on today, you will have in the closed Facebook groups month-end numbers for January, so look for those. 91 days closed on market this past week, a 6.81 month supply. Absorption rate was at 14.68. Average list price this past week at $788,646. Average sale price this past week at $661,830. And our list price to sale price retention came in at 97.06. Looking at active inventory, up a little bit more of a chunk, 25,655. Remember, my numbers don't include pending and active with contingencies. So taking a look at pending in the center, we're at 4,338. And closed units to the right at 1,004 a month to date for the month of February, way too early. Taking a look at new listings, 2,368 new listings taken this past week. Not bad at all. Days on market for active at 92 and for closed at 91. Active at 92, closed at 91. What's coming on the market is selling relatively quickly. Looking at the price ranges, lower left-hand side, nothing in red. Every category increased this past week, bringing the $0 to $600,000 price range representing 66.61% of the entire MLS inventory, 18.79% for the $600,000 to $1 million category, and 14.59% of properties over $1 million. Okay, so the spreadsheet where everybody gets to be the expert. We take a look at week over week, month over month, and year over year. So taking a look at new listings, we're always shooting for that left-hand side column, that 2,400, just because it's like a guaranteed indicator that the market's relatively strong. There's enough sellers putting their properties on the market. And so we're at 2,368. We've been hovering right about that 2,400 number. Last year we were at 2,309, and the year before that at 2,104. So again, that means that February starting off equally as well, if not just a little bit better than last year. So sellers are confident. Looking at active inventory sitting at 25,655. And again, 23,000 were 10%. So we had a little bit more growth in inventory because this was down to about 8%, if you remember, in December. We're about 10%, almost 11% higher than we were last year and significantly higher than we were in 2024. Looking at pending is at 4,338. This is the representative of the buyers in the marketplace. If the pending units go up, meaning the number of properties in escrow, that's what this number is. We call it pending. As this number goes up, it just means more people are under escrow. If more people are under escrow, that means there's more buyers in the marketplace, or at least more buyers engaging. And that's what you and I want to know. We want to know if we're going to spend some time with buyers, is it the right time of year? Are there more buyers than there were before? And that also is indicative of what we end up with our month supply, which we'll talk about in just a second. 1,004. These numbers are way too early in the month for the month of February, so we'll just skip those. Come down to month supply. 6.81, Mike's favorite number, buyer's market. But again, it's green because, in reality, based on year-over-year performance, that's okay for this particular first part of February. We usually always start January off strong, which I think we slowed down a little bit in January. So February was really good to see. Looking at the median price range of 457 versus 450, this is something to take a look at. Lawrence Young was talking about the average price of properties going up about 3%. 2 to 3% this year. So we'll see if this goes up 2 to 3% year over year. We'll kind of keep an eye on that. This is a very capricious number in this particular column. If you look at this number way over on the right, which we'll do later today in the month of January, then you'll see it's easier to plot over time what's happening in the marketplace. So the market did slow up just a little bit this week. We're up to 91 days on market from 85. But the good news is the sellers are still retaining about 3% of their list price, the difference between the list price and the sale price. They were doing much better last year. So this is something that is probably taking place because there is more inventory, more buyers. The market is in that buyer mode right now. So expect negotiation. So if you're a listing agent and you've got a property, whether it's been on the market a long time or not, you've got to prepare your seller for a negotiation. Not necessarily if they've already given up the price, and they have been giving up price, maybe it's time. The market's starting to show some significant signs of activity. So what's happening is it might be the time to do a price change by going up, not down. So take a look at your market, see what's happening, and do whatever you need to do that's appropriate for your client. So thanks, guys.
I appreciate it, and I was noticing the amount of listings in that $200,000 to $300,000 range. I mean, there's a lot of people say that Phoenix is no longer affordable. That's affordable to me, and
my
there's a
gosh.
good number of them.
You know, and some of them are in the 55 adult community, so sure. But there's so many in the if you're a West Side agent right now, there are so many properties available right off of Loop 303 that are brand new. You know, talk to Justin about whether he can do better on their interest rates, but they're very, very, very affordable.
Yeah.
Under $400,000 for a brand new 1,200, 1,300 square foot home.
All right, Justin, what's going on with rates,
Hey,
buddy?
good morning, guys. Yeah, look at the rates. There you go. Things have been, last week we had one really good day, Thursday, where we saw the market shift quite a bit. So let's see what happens this week. We get CPI out this week, Consumer Price Index, and that may have an impact. But I know China's talking about pulling some of their money out of our bonds. That can really have an impact on what happens. So if they pull money out, we may see higher rates.
And then hopefully the feds will.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this is your typical inspection report. And the reason why I'm bringing this to you is I'm trying to help you make transactions easier. So with a VA loan, we have issues with 15, 16, 17, and 18 a lot. Wood to earth contact, trees touching the house, faulty grades where the grade of the land is running towards the home, excessive moisture inside the house, where it's just showing moisture damage. If you're not telling your inspector you're doing a VA loan, they're not saying it's dry at the time of inspection. They're just showing that there's moisture damage, water staining, or plumbing. A lot of this information is stuff that your inspector should be catching anyways with your standard inspection report. There's really no reason to turn this in to us if you're doing a VA. I want to talk to you guys
You talk about the termite, the pests.
the pest
Don't
inspection.
turn that into you.
This is the form you're going to want to turn into us. The one over here to the right.
Can we go back just 1 second?
Yes, we
I just
can.
want to call everybody's attention to the red at the bottom. This is the only document of all the real estate documents that are out there. I always talk about this in contract classes, where look at this, and I'll read it for you because I'm sure it's small in your what you're watching. It says, I have received the original or a legible copy of this form, and I have read pages 1, 2, and 3 of this form. This is the only document we have in real estate where the buyer or the purchaser signs ahead of document information that they're still responsible for happening after. This page 2, when most people talk about a property like this, they're saying, yeah, it's there's no termites. They don't ever talk about page 2.
So yeah, and I mean this could be great for your buyer. Keep that with your buyer. But for us, I know this is blown up a little too much. But on the right, this is called the NP, Nancy Paul Mary Alpha 33 form. You can talk to your pest inspection company, but this form is very simple for us. Do they have wood?
Active moisture.
No. Do you have insects that are termites? Do you have termites? And so that's all we want to know as the lender. If they have termites, we need to show a treatment. But in this original form here, we can have so many other issues outside of inspections, water damage. How many houses have you ever been in that doesn't show a stain underneath the kitchen sink?
Yeah, not too
Typically,
many.
they're always stained, right? I mean, the water damage down there. So as long as it's dry on the time of inspection, but a lot of times they don't market that it's dry at the time of inspection. We got to have another report to clear it up, whereas this NPMA will get rid of that, get rid of the faulty grading, get rid of trees touching the home. A lot of times there's trees touching the home. Buyers like that stuff. Obviously we don't like it because insects can crawl over and get into it. But NPMA, that will save you some time. The NPMA 33, please use that for all of your VA. It will save you some troubles, time, and money for your buyers.
So this is what we're getting from. We're asking the pest inspection.
Pest inspection company. Can I get the NPMA form so I can turn it into the lender? You can still get the standard form, and they can turn that in. You can work off of that, but as long as we don't get our hands on that, we're not going to ask you for more stuff out of the transaction than maybe you even want. In some of those cases too, like if there's sheds in the backyard, that this form can cause an issue with that. So
Okay,
yeah,
that's good stuff.
Yeah, and make sure if you do does that have to be signed by the buyer?
that form.
Yeah.
I don't believe so. I'm sorry, I don't know that, but no, I don't believe so. We do have to have the invoice showing that it was paid for, though.
Okay. Yeah, because if you did have it, that ends up being under the new laws. That ends up being our 428-3103, which is now another disclosure document that we're going to have included in our file, uploaded to the broker, even if it's not signed. So if you do use that, remember that you'll have to upload that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, good stuff, Justin. Very, very insightful. All righty. All right, so let's get into our 3-pack. So as promised, Todd, we're going to talk about just we've all done open houses or we're talking with people, and people just say, "I'm just looking right now." So what so what does that mean, and how do you dig deeper into that? So there's old adage out here, and I'm not trying to be negative, but this is something that we say all the time, and we always go under the assumption that buyers are liars.
Oh, I hate that.
So it's the same thing. I lie. When I go see my doctor, he says, "Well, how many cocktails a week do you have?"
There you go. Right.
I'm like, well, I put them in a big giant cup, so one a day, and we go, and when we go shop for cars, we always throw out, "Hey, just looking," and how many times have you gone to a car dealership, say, "I'm just looking," and you walk away with a car?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
So just know that,
Great setup. That's good.
when they're not really insinuating that everybody's out there lying, but they may not want to have tough conversations. They don't want to make any decisions, but just because somebody says that I'm looking, why are you looking? If you weren't somewhat interested or thinking about making some sort of real estate transaction, you wouldn't be looking.
Totally. Yeah.
So first one, just reframe just looking as a stage, not an objection. If somebody comes into your open house or you're having a conversation with someone and they say they're just looking, and you shut down and you say, "Okay, well, they're just looking and they're not going to buy,"
Go take a look at
then you've already lost, because like we have up here, it's it might be just early stage curiosity. It's not necessarily rejection. So oftentimes the goal may not be to immediately convert them on the spot, but dig deeper, ask deeper questions, get the conversation starts. Because I would say, yeah, that's totally fair. Most smart people are just start looking. If you're going to shop for a car, you're going to look. You're going to want to see what's out there. But it doesn't mean that they're not. I don't go to a car dealership just to look at cars. Okay,
because you enjoy the negotiations
because I enjoy it. I go and I might check out a couple dealerships.
Right.
Okay, and they might be checking out a couple different agents.
That's the thing.
And so just understand that.
That you hit the nail, I think, right on the head. The other piece of this is nobody wants to engage until they themselves believe they're ready to engage, and that time frame is different than yours. You're anticipating, and this is one of the things I've always hated about the word conversion, is that it kind of puts all of us into I don't need to help you, I need to convert you philosophy. And I think that is pushing the consumer farther away from us. It's actually, hypocritical, or not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just
counterproductive.
Thank you. It's really just pushing them away. So I like, there's those old-fashioned subject lines, 23 stupid mistakes smart buyers make, And so your comment here, totally fair. Most smart buyers start there. I think that's a brilliant comment. I like that one.
Yeah, I think a lot of agents that get into the situation where they're having conversations, they're banging phones, or they're talking to somebody, if someone says, "I'm just looking right now," and you turn off and you're done talking to them, you've not done it long enough. And that might have happened early in your career, but that's a great conversation starter. And you guys, you made the points. You need to work on their timeline, not yours. It doesn't matter what you want to do. It's what they want to do. They don't know what they don't know. You are trying to build a long-lasting relationship based on trust and understanding. The only way to build that is to be okay with their timeline, be compassionate of what their goals are, but ask the questions that you need information so you can help direct them the right way. And that's fine. If they say, I'm just looking, great, here's some questions I have. Let's just walk through this real quick. Be 5 minutes of your time, and then we'll go on down the road. But now you've just embedded in their brain, well, this guy knows what he's talking about. This agent is legit. Maybe I do want to have more conversations with them.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, and everybody can, if you're just, everybody can answer a simple question of what type of house are you looking for? What are the things, what are some of the things in a house that are important to you? Is a pool important to you? Is, how many bedrooms are important to you? Just get that dialogue going.
It's this is the easiest thing that we don't do. And again, I'm just going to go back to the conversion philosophy. It's don't try to, have things and tools that interest them. Know about the community more. And have some things prepared that the other agent who's holding the same open house 2 streets over isn't going to be prepared to provide.
All right, and so love this one. Lead with value and not follow-ups. So you're not asking for a commitment. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not asking for a commitment. I'm just asking for a name and a phone number. But why is somebody going to want to give you their name and their phone number? And and I guess a lot of this is it's great strategies for open houses, but it's anywhere. I always say that it's the reason why I don't personally carry business cards. I do always have one in case I have to get into a gated community, but the only other time that I hand a business card out is if I know I really have no interest in working with this person. Outside of that, I don't hand out business cards because nobody's going to take my business card and hang on to it and call me 6 months later. And so if I'm having a conversation with you and I have failed to get your name and number at the very least, I have just, I'm not going to say that I've wasted, X amount of time. But when it does come down to being, bringing those people in, I was going to say convert them, but Todd's got me all. Yeah. Todd's got me, nervous about it. But I have to get a name and phone number at the very least, and so then you just run down what are the things in your real estate agent toolbox that you could provide. Things of value that somebody would be willing to, in exchange for that thing of value, give you their name and phone number.
And not having it with you is also important. In other words, don't have the item of value with you. You need a reason for them to give you your valid contact information for them to get that item of value. If you're handing it out because you're just like filling them with all these wonderful tools when they walk in the door, you're missing each individual value proposition of or opportunity to collect their number to have further communication. Look at it from this perspective, not from I'm here to sell you a home today. Look at it from the perspective of, in your search, what are the things that are really important to you about finding the right home? What are your biggest concerns about the marketplace right now? With interest rates coming down to 6%, is financing a big issue for you? There's so many ways that you could get them, and not the yes. That was a yes, no. That was a close question at the end. But things that get them to really just have more conversation. And remember this: the person who talks the most wins.
So, Nick, I know that West, you say we have approximately 3,200 agents.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and you know the number. So, what percentage of our agent family is still not paying $5 a month for a branded agent real estate search app?
More than probably should. The app out there to be able to provide that thing of value or get someone to give you their information for $5, it's one of the cheaper options that you have out there. It also, again, allows them to be on their timeline. If someone walks into an open house and you're having a conversation with them and you're trying to convert that person in that moment, you're probably not having the right conversation. If they're up to you, if they come up to you and they're really excited to have a conversation about buying a house, 100%. But if they drop, I'm just looking, okay, great. Make sure to sign in so I can follow up with any information. But once you have them sign in, this conversation happens the next day. You're reaching out the next day, a couple days after that, because the timeline is super important to have that conversation. And if you're able to get them the mobile app, they're going to be searching on your system. You have a deeper dive on what they're looking for.
Totally. It's almost by mistake inside of itself. But I do just want to qualify the question that I made, or the statement that I made about the person who talks the most wins. The goal is to get your buyer to talk the most. If the buyer talks the most, then you have won. So I kind of said that incorrectly. I want to clarify.
So I want to go back to the mobile app. So we started working with this brand new buyer that we met at an event. And so we started with sending me properties that they were interested in from Zillow. And literally there were 2 properties the day before showed active. No, 1 property that showed active. The next day they go, oh, well, it's now sold. And I looked, it's sold and closed 6 months ago. And so having that, so back to the mobile app, the $5 a month, it's going to be more accurate and more reliable, in my opinion. And it was so easy for me to share it with them. And when you share it with somebody, you're going to share it via text. And that is the number one way that I get phone numbers. I don't need their names because I got forewarned for another $5 a month.
Yeah. I mean, in my neighborhood, everybody knows I work in real estate. Even though I'm not a big walk around, talk to the neighbors, it just got out there. And when people ask me, there's a home that went for sale on the block, I got 5 texts from the neighbors asking. And so honestly, I'm not in sales. I just sent them the West USA app, the one out of the main app at the main store, and said, here, this will give you all the information on the houses that are coming up. It's not a hard thing to do, guys.
Not on.
you go.
You don't tell people you're a broker, Nick?
I absolutely do not. I'm not a broker.
Interesting. Okay.
All right, third one.
Welcome.
Interesting.
So obviously, if people say that they're just looking, they're probably, in their mind, they're just looking and they're not ready to. And it's not, I think we kind of hit on it a little bit earlier, Todd. It's not that they're not necessarily ready to buy a house, they're not ready to select an agent.
Absolutely.
And so create low pressure next steps that feel optional. Again, sharing the mobile app is great. And so there's 2 things that I do here. Part of going back to just asking questions, understanding, what are the price points and so forth. Okay, if when I go home, I'm going to go through the entire MLS. If I find a couple properties that fit that buy box, can I share them with you? Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, I need your email address. And then neighbors at open houses is, how would you like to be the very first to know when this house closes and how much it's sold for? Because when it closes, I will text you right away and just give you all of that information.
The 2 pieces here are that just think of it from this perspective. If they don't personally engage with you to go to the next step themselves, it's because there's something in their mind that hasn't been switched yet. So the more questions that you can ask them, the more they're going to feel like maybe you're even just the one that they're going to be able to ask the next question to that isn't going to try to lock them down and convert them, right? Exactly. So you're even giving them reasons to want to call you later, from that perspective. The other position, from on this one is the low pressure part. Pressure comes when people aren't ready to make a decision for whatever that reason might be. So your job isn't really to go overboard selling them on the house. It's going overboard, asking them enough questions that basically you're selling yourself to them and they're now engaging. And when they start asking you questions, you're on the right track.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean the goal for all of this, especially when you're dealing with objection handling, is it's not the object that you're selling. You're selling yourself. You need to get yourself into that trust window or whatever you want to call that with this individual. They need to know when they have a question regarding real estate, they're going to text, email, call you. And if someone in their life asks them a question about real estate, they're going to say, you want to talk to this person because this person has all the answers for you. That's the goal for all of these relationship building conversations that you're having. The objection is about the house or not, they're not ready right now. Awesome. That's fantastic. Let's just make sure that we're prepared when you do get ready. Ready is a decision. It's not a state of mind.
all that's running through my head for this conversation right now is that, that story about how guy befriends a girl, he really is interested in her, but he becomes her best friend and she tells him everything, but that takes him off her radar. Be careful, because what you want, you've got to make sure they know you're ready to be active and engaged. So there's a delicate balance here, and you can achieve that by constantly making sure that whatever you're doing for them, it causes another reason for engagement.
All right, another edition of Love Talk, brought to you by Todd Bernard, where you get the latest and greatest in dating advice.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah. Don't be too much of a friend.
All right. Well, we have broker Kyle Fouts. He handed me a piece of paper here.
I know.
What font size do you use?
Which I know you like. I heard you sigh when I handed it to you.
No, because I can't read that.
That's size 12, buddy. That's size
not
12. You know what?
12.
100% that's 12. But you don't have to read, Mike. You can pass
It's good because I can't read anyway. It wouldn't matter what the font size is. I can't spell or read anyways.
All right, Kyle. Here we go.
All right, so let's talk about form changes as of February 1st. They keep changing the forms.
They do, and it's
Leave me alone, please.
It's not me.
I know. I'm not. That was rhetorical. That was to the committee.
A rhetorical comment. Okay,
yes.
I got it. To the committee, to the powers that be. I think a lot of us have those same sentiments. I'll tell you that. But the good thing is these changes were very minimal. The big thing I want to get out there is please make sure that you update your templates on Transaction Desk. All of the files that come in with old contract versions get sent to me for a quick conversation, a quick email to the agent that just says, hey, FYI. So the fewer that we could have of those, the better, at least in my inbox. So that's kind of the culprit on this. But essentially the changes to the contracts, the only things that were changed were the purchase contracts, so the residential, the land, the lease agreement, et cetera. And it just made it more clear that instead of just saying the buyer or the broker on behalf of the buyer, it now says specifically broker represents buyer and will receive compensation from the transaction.
Boom.
Right. ADR. I mean, there was language in the previous versions of the contract that stated basically this, but it maybe wasn't it wasn't a one sentence thing. It was in a paragraph. ADRE opined that was not sufficient to have the parties be absolutely understanding of that dynamic. So now it is right above where they sign their names, essentially. So that's really the only change. The second thing is the small claims court threshold has been increased from $3,500 up to $5,000.
Who makes that decision?
That's an excellent question. I don't know the answer to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably the Attorney General.
Likely. Yeah. I would agree with that. But I don't know where it comes from. It
just
happened.
happens.
It happened. It is part of the purchase contract, and therefore, like if you look at a red line version, it's a very short version because it just has this sentence change and then the dollar amount change.
All right.
So nothing crazy.
So let me ask you this. I think it was a couple months ago. Maybe explain a little bit more in detail the delayed listing language, and I think there's like a delayed listing agreement. What that is, and when do we use it?
Yeah, there is plenty of confusion. That's a new process. We've kind of, as you alluded to, we have a lot of new processes. The delayed listing form is new, and the process is new. We used to give agents language that they could put onto page 7 of the listing agreement that would say property's not going into MLS, yada yada yada, will not be marketed. Now, instead of that language, there is a form that has been created by ADRE or by AAR. That covers that scenario. So the listing agreement changed. Line 172 has now an election for the owner to make, whether it says does or does not. Essentially, the owner does. If the owner does, essentially the listing is going onto the market immediately. It's going into MLS immediately. There is no delay in marketing.
Right.
If the owner does not, which is fairly commonly the case, I'll take a listing, but I still got pictures to take, or they're going to do whatever to the property. So it's going to be a week. It's going to be a little bit of time. Now triggers the use of this new form. The new form is a mouthful. Most people will probably refer to it as just the owner's delayed marketing form, but it's the full term is the owner's delayed or limited marketing election addendum. It's a hefty one. But essentially there's only 2 elections on there, either delayed marketing or limited marketing. Okay. When you see delayed marketing, which is the first one, that's on line 17, when you see that term, think for the members of ARMLS, think coming soon. That is exactly what that section means. I know they're like, well, I am delaying marketing, but I'm not going to go coming soon. That's the other one. So delayed marketing on that form means coming soon. Okay. Like you're putting it on MLS, but it's just not being syndicated. The lower one, line 21 of that document, says limited marketing. And that's basically a catch-all. I mean, it does say that it can be an office exclusive, so you can still have conversations with other West USA agents, if that's the brokerage you're with listening to us, regarding the listing, but it won't be put out to anybody. It won't be marketed in any capacity. There won't be a sign. There won't be flyers. That's limited marketing. That's the change. I mean, it's the form is fairly straightforward. It's check a box, have the owner sign, but essentially it is further proof. In our business, there's just the documentation is CYA for obvious reasons. This is further proof that the owner understood the dynamic of the marketing that they were having for their property. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I oftentimes I'm in a situation where, because my belief is if I'm sitting in a kitchen and they're ready to sign a listing agreement, but we know that this house will not be ready to go on the market for 4 months because they need to replace carpet and so forth. I like, if you're willing to sign, I want to walk away with that.
So you wouldn't just wait. You wouldn't wait for the 4 months for them to get their ducks
not to
in
sign
a
a
row.
listing agreement. No way.
And why is that?
Control the contract.
Okay.
Yep.
Agreed.
Okay.
I was just for the sake of conversation. That is
a lot of bad things can happen in 4 months.
Well, yeah. I mean, and they change their mind, right? They decide to go with their other buddy or their cousin or someone else who's now newly licensed or what have you, which is fine. But you're right. If you have someone in front of you who is ready to sign an agreement, you sign the agreement. When is the start date for that agreement? When you put together the ER for that listing, do you start it? Do you not post date, predate,
commencement date?
Yeah, well, we have a commencement date, the day that they sign it, but then we have in the additional terms that whatever said period of time doesn't begin till it actually gets into the MLS.
Okay, so it's in the scenario that you've described, you wouldn't need those terms. You now have the owner's delayed form to utilize. Yeah. And so you'd utilize the limited marketing because you're basically not doing anything for those months. You're just holding it.
Yeah, until it's ready.
I'll say just another piece on that, Mike. I know you're moving on, but agents, when they go to enter the listing into MLS, want to know what date do I put? It asks for a listing date or a list date. Put the date that you're entering it into MLS. So you're not accruing days on market for those 4 months that they're rehabbing whatever or doing whatever. When I'm entering it in MLS, ask me for a list date, I'm going to put the day I'm putting it in there.
Gotcha.
Okay. That's a way to, that's part of the process that maybe isn't perfect, but it is the way that it's handled.
All right, let's talk about difficult clients and how to handle them. We all have difficult clients. I'm sure you guys have difficult agents that you work with. Me, not included.
I'm not talking about West USA agents, of course.
I know.
Yeah, I wanted to bring. I mean, obviously, sitting in the chair that we sit in as brokers, we get a lot of these types of scenarios, and there's just some overarching themes that I wanted to touch on when you're dealing with somebody who is putting you through your paces, right? Yeah, and there's
coming in hot,
right? To each their own. I tell agents, this is a people business, and it takes all kinds, and you'll see all kinds if you're in the business long enough, and that's okay. It just is what it is. But if you have a client who's being argumentative or difficult, remember that you work for them, right? If that's the first. You have fiduciaries to them. You're working on their behalf. You're giving them your advice, and whether or not they take it is their decision, right? And so just make sure that you're understanding of that dynamic. It shouldn't be you pushing them to do anything. It's just, here is what I would advise in this scenario. Take that for what you will. And if you choose to go a different direction, that's okay. This is why we document our conversations, to make sure that we can prove what advice was given, and then they're adults. They can make a choice on how to act on that advice or not to. Some people think this business is incredibly easy and they don't really need our advice, yet they've hired us. It's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic. It's also difficult, I know, and I've had 2 scenarios over the last few months with agents, clients who have essentially fired our agent, but we're in the middle of a transaction. So I've kind of stepped in to try to be like a middle person. And usually when that happens, the client's just happy to be rid of the agent for whatever reason that they think that they're being, the shortcomings of that agent. So a broker gets involved, it's fine. In these scenarios, it wasn't. I was just an extension of the agent, and I was as bad as that agent in their mind. So I've had to practice what I preach, which I haven't been put through my paces in that regard in a long, long time. And I do now very much see how difficult it is when a client is incredibly accusatory and everything you say is met with skepticism and just you're trying to further your own interests versus advise me. That's a tough situation to be in. And now I can really appreciate that. Your natural inclination is to defend yourself, right? We have our client's best interest in mind at all points. That is our job. That is our business. And so when it's being met with those types of comments back and framing it in a way that is, accusatory, it's difficult.
Yeah,
it's difficult.
Well, let's talk about it when a client wants to fire you. It's an interesting to have a client want to fire you, during a transaction.
Sure.
Because if it's prior to a transaction and they want to fire you, it's got to be a mutual.
Correct.
It's got to be mutually agreed upon. If you as the agent just want to flat out fire them, you can just fire them. It's unilaterally. You don't have
with
to have
with a listing scenario. Correct.
But when you're in the middle of a transaction, that's really interesting.
We still have obligations as agents, whether the client likes it or not.
But let's say the agent wants out.
I'll have a conversation with them. I understand, but the agent needs to understand. Once you've started down that road, you can't just take the hat off and be like,
okay, that's what I was getting at.
I'm done. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. You hope that cooler heads will prevail. But if they don't, our verbal conversations are not, going as planned. Let's move to email communication and we'll just communicate.
That's probably better. That's probably better. If they become accusatory,
sure.
You probably want to have as much of that communication via email or text as possible.
Yeah, documented, I agree. The problem with email is there's no tone, and it can even exacerbate the issue.
You're not wrong, and I agree with that. And an agent has to be really careful with how they communicate, because it's just a bad look. Like I said, your natural inclination is to defend yourself. You're the professional in this scenario. Whether your client is just coming at you at all points, you have to remain cool, calm, collected. Make sure all of your communication is incredibly professional, because it will, to Todd's point, that stuff will come back. There's no context to it. I agree with that, and they'll also use it against you in a heartbeat. So you got to be very, handling them with kitty gloves to some degree. Just like I'm just stating the facts. There is no opinions here. I'm just giving you my advice. Again, take it for what it's worth. You know what I mean?
Sometimes, Kyle, what do you think about the position taking the position with the consumer of, let's slow down a minute. Let's sit down and let's have a conversation. What are the things, and kind of like Mike in the very beginning when we're talking to that buyer and we want them to engage with us, what are the things that are going on that's really a problem for you? And how can I help us get through that particular, get over this?
If you
Rather than saying I didn't do that, or
correct, and you can't take that tack because that's just going to increase the level of problematic conversations. But yeah, anything that you can do, any conversations that you can have to try to kind of take the steam out of the situation, I get it. But I've also realized that some people just they're not here for it. They're
not nice people.
They just don't care. They're not reasonable with their expectations. They're not rational in their communication. And so it's just, you're like, where do we go from here? If I can't even just have like okay, let's take a step back. Let's try to take the emotion out of this. Let's have a real adult to adult conversation. And they're not gonna hear it. It's tough.
At what point do we pick up the phone and give you guys a heads up? Just say, hey,
Yeah.
I've got a problematic client here. You might be getting a call.
As soon as you feel like we'll take that conversation with you at any point. Whenever you feel like you need to have it, we're here for it. We'll listen and we'll give you some advice if there's things that maybe we would suggest. But, oftentimes it's just a heads up we get from an agent, which is great. It's appreciated, especially if the client has threatened to call us. Like, yeah, let us know. You can say, I talked to Kyle, so ask for Kyle.
I
That's
give
fine.
Nick's number.
Perfect. Well, and as you should.
Not a broker.
Non-broker Nick.
But you're my coach.
That's right.
I'm your mentor. Buddy.
All righty. And the last thing I would just say to that, especially when situations go bad, to your point of don't take it personal, don't let your emotions get in the way. You need to step back and go, how did we get here? Like
Sure.
I do that all the time. Of like,
Sure.
how did we get here?
Self-reflect.
What did I do?
Mhm.
Could I have done something different? And then I'm like, no, probably not. I'm perfect. So, it's always the other person's fault in my book, right?
There's a humbling that takes place when you do that in front of somebody, especially your consumer. You have to be careful, because sometimes any kind of admission can be used.
No, I'm
against
talking
you.
about self-reflection.
But no, right. But the point is, if you sit down and you say, "How can we resolve this?" What's the issue? What did I do? Or something along those lines. Sometimes you can get past them. But to your point, Mike, sometimes people, and my wife's had those as well, and I did many years ago. You're just not going to win no matter what
Correct.
you do.
Correct.
And that, I think, is the person Kyle's
And that's tough.
referencing right
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
And that's tough. And so you don't use like, well, I'm sorry I did that. Or you don't put, you don't, like you said, you don't want to like say, yeah, because a lot of times they're just skewing the conversation for a way to make it bad on you. What I would say is, I'm sorry you feel that way. Okay, what are we going to do to move forward? Like, let's focus on solutions here. What do you want to, where do you want to go from here? And then quickly, I want to touch on when it's a cross sale agent. It's
Oh,
not your
quickly?
client.
Are you kidding me? I got a
you
lot
got-
on. Oh,
okay,
let's
where do you
talk
wanna
about
go?
that.
That's fine.
Oh man, like what can we do? Because okay. One, it's this happens more frequently than you would think. Is you're dealing with an agent from another brokerage, and they are okay. I'm not a broker. I don't know everything. But I feel like I've been doing this podcast for 12 plus years with all you guys that are all brokers. I know stuff. I know stuff that a lot of agents don't know. And I would just be sitting there going, like, you're wrong.
Right.
Right. And then I find out that agent is the broker.
Correct.
And I'm like, what do you do?
Well, see, for someone like you have so much experience to draw from that that they're wrong. So I don't worry about how you handle that because you'll handle it as a professional. I worry about the new agent because I get this all the time. Well, hey, the person on the other side is a broker. And they're saying this, they must, they're a broker. They must be right. Like that's this, which I appreciate, being a broker. I appreciate that level of trust in what a broker knows. But just like agents, there are plenty of great brokers. There are plenty that don't know what they don't know. And when it's a sole proprietor and they're their own broker, again, there's plenty of great ones. I'm not saying that they're throwing a blanket and saying they all are like this, but there are plenty who have their own theories on things and just do it their own way. And there's nobody there to check them. They're just kind of doing their own stuff.
I've said this Mike's probably heard me for 35 years say this, but it's just one of those things. The first time somebody says, well, you're wrong, I've been doing this for 22 years, that's your first clue. They have no clue what they're talking about. Because things change, laws change, rules change, the way we do things change. Some of us have just been through that in the last couple of years. But just remember that, so Mike's question is, how would you, if you're smart, meaning if you know the business, then you know the rule they're breaking. And and that's why all my CE classes give you the actual law itself. And what I don't want you to become attorneys. I just want you to be able to say to somebody, you know what, you might want to take a look at R428-1101. There's only about 6 different laws that you could really send across the table to somebody. And then just tell them, hey, you know what, you might want to read this and let's have a conversation after you do.
Sure. Yeah, and
but that doesn't mean they're going to take that as advice either. So.
And then if they're not a broker, let's just say they're not a broker. So my process is that would be the first thing is here's the language, and do it in a professional way. You can't get into a yelling match because it's a
non-starter.
It's a non-starter, and this is my interpretation of what this language says and why. And if that doesn't suffice, then I encourage them. And I've had this happen. I go talk to your broker, and then they'll call me and go, "You're right."
Yep.
And then if that doesn't work, then I'm introducing their broker to you guys, and just let you guys handle it. Because they're not going to listen to me.
Correct, but
the other brokers.
I hear you. No. I hear you, and you're right. When the agent goes to the broker and still gets poor advice, and then comes back to you, I don't mind you saying, "Hey, can you have a conversation?" What you need to understand, or an agent that's in your situation, is that I may not be able to sway that broker either. I mean, they believe they know what they know, and may not be willing to bend on that. And in that case, you just have to, like, the client just has to make a decision to act however they would choose.
Okay.
Based on your advice. You may not be able to convince the other side.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Be a help. Don't be, like you said earlier with the consumer, look for the solution. You're looking for the solution. So you're telling the other agent, hey, I'd like you to review this because I'd like to have a solution beyond this before we, and you don't tell them before we bring in the guns, but that's really what you're hoping. You're hoping to have some kind of collaborative, conversation.
So I think the other popular scenario is the listing agent he goes out of town.
Sure.
And he hasn't let anyone know.
Sure.
He's got no one covering for them, or he thinks he does, and that person's really not covering for them. And I can't get a hold of the agent, whether it's I've submitted an offer and I'm not hearing back. I've left 10 messages a day. We've got some questions. We want to submit an offer.
Right.
At what point can I, if I can, I know I can't go directly to the seller because
correct.
We are so tempted to do that I can't tell you how many times I want to go to the seller, but I know we can't. But at what point can I pick up the phone and call? Because that's a non-starter too. That agent's going to be mad. But at the end of the day, I represent my buyer, and I need to. And so, at what point can I pick up the phone and call that other designated broker?
That's, to me, I hear you, and you're right. That does create potentially a dynamic of like, what you told on me. I'm not too concerned with that from our perspective. In my mind, I mean, the answer will change depending on where you're at in the process. Potentially, like sometimes you have a little bit more leeway to wait or have an ability to wait versus if there's a deadline looming and you need to get, like, I would absolutely reach, and the broker should be here there to receive that and say, I'll do my best to get in touch with them. That's what we're here for, to help.
That's that old rule, Mike, where people think if the listing agent isn't available for 24 hours, I can go directly to the seller.
That's negative. Yeah.
You can't. And one more thing, that's R4 281102, and that was just also updated on December 13th of 25 to much more clear language to say that if somebody goes away on vacation and they don't tell their broker, they don't have somebody else prepared to do that, and that person, that's an administrative code violation. So it's a law that they're breaking. It's not, just, oh, you should have done this. It's, But to your point about calling the broker, I've never recommended that an agent calls another company's designated broker. I always recommend, because first of all, they're more trained and they know better than to answer the phone to somebody sometimes like that. They may have somebody else do it. But I always recommend go to your broker, go to one of your managing brokers, and then have them call for you. It carries a lot more weight, and I think that's the right thing to do.
I'm ambivalent about, if that's even the right word, but I'm okay either way. If they get it. So what I'll usually tell an agent is go ahead and give their broker, because we receive calls like that from agents, and I'll listen to an agent and I'll have the conversation with our agent. But there are brokerages that will say, nope, you got to have your broker call, and if that's the case, let me know. I'm happy to do that. I mean, any of us are, for sure.
Good point.
All right, you had on your list you want to talk about septic systems. God.
I had literally 3 conversations about it last week, and so I mean it's clearly happening out there. You don't want to talk about septic systems?
I love talking
your
about
favorite topic.
Yeah,
is that what you mean?
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right, Mike. What form do you need?
Yeah.
Don't quiz me. This is your special day.
No, my special day.
On-site wastewater? No.
On-site
On-site
wastewater.
treatment,
Is? Yeah.
something,
Sure.
something. I know where it is.
You know that it starts with on-site, and you
Yeah.
can find it. Okay. The on-site wastewater treatment facility addendum is needed. That's what
That's
when
not
you
the
have.
business down the street?
It's not. No.
Damn.
Hey, also, can you if the parties agree? Can you waive that requirement that's in there for it to be inspected and pumped and all the things? Like,
If
are
it's
you
a
allowed
cash
to do
deal,
that?
you can.
No.
Can you?
No.
Okay.
Cash deal? Sure.
Why?
Because
Covered
normally
by
it's
the
a lender requirement.
It's
Covered by
not.
the Arizona Department of Health Services.
It's a statutory.
This is why I
thing.
didn't want to talk about this
is-
subject.
okay.
Okay.
Hey, listen, and this is why I brought it up. We see it all the time. That the clients don't want to, like, the buyer's going to abandon it, or the buyer doesn't care, or what have you. It doesn't. It is a statutory, like, you must. If it is serviced by a septic system, it must be inspected and pumped, unless it's a brand new system, in which case we'll accept the discharge authorization, which basically is the county saying we're good on this system and it's brand new, hasn't been put into use yet. So just know the on-site wastewater treatment facility addendum is the form that governs kind of this whole dynamic between the parties. It needs to be, it says it defaults to the seller having it inspected and pumped within 20 days of contract acceptance. Okay. They also must provide the documentation to you, any documents they have in regard to the septic system, also within 20 days. Buyer has the right to evaluate the septic documents and cancel. This is not tied to the inspection period. This is one of the questions that I had this week. This is almost invariably going to be done after your inspection period is completed. You're through your Benzer process. You still have a window of opportunity to walk if there are issues. The document also says that it talks about a 1% of the sales price that the seller is obligated to pay in the event the system is non-functional. Agents often confuse. The report comes in with either one of three things: either functional with concerns, or non-functional. Those are the three options that the inspector has to choose. Very commonly, you'll see functional with concerns. And a lot of agents believe that triggers the need for, or the required 1% from the seller, and it doesn't. Okay. At that point, if it comes in functional with concerns, usually what happens is we have concerns. Buyer, this is it. Then now we're in the buyer 5-day window to evaluate the documentation. Where are we going to go from here, seller? Are we going to do some sort of concession? Are you going to fix it? Like, the negotiations begin at that point, but it does not trigger the required 1%. The only thing that triggers that, where the seller actually must pay, is not functional.
So it again, I'm not sure if it's contract dock or that dock,
Sure.
or the on-site wastewater, but there was a clause, and I thought it was still in there, so that says that the pump, if it has been inspected within the past 6 months, then you can use that inspection report. But here's the concern. Both the listing agent and the buyer's agent need to look at the date on that document. And if the closing is going to take place 1 hour after, 1 day after, a week after, you're going to have it done all over again anyway. So you might want to front load that and have them re-inspect it within that 20-day period.
That's still there. Absolutely. It does. You do have they're good for 6 months, but it goes by, like you said, close of escrow date. Yeah. It's not, we went under contract within 6 months, but we're closing, 30 days after that. It's close of escrow must occur within that 6-month window. And if it does, you can utilize that previous inspection. It doesn't have to be redone at that point. So,
all right. So 2 questions.
Sure.
So if the sewer system or the septic system comes back non-functional, and we're talking about that, the 1% kicks in, just want to clear, it doesn't mean that the buyer can't walk.
Correct. The buyer has the ability to walk.
And then number 2, and this is the one I hear agents like. There's not agents go back and forth on that.
Sure.
Because I believe the language says that the seller is required at their expense to get the inspection. Can the buyer pay for it? Can that be negotiated?
It can.
Okay.
The payment of the inspection can. I'll tell you, it's between $500 and $1,000. Like around $750 is what I've heard, but it's been a while since someone told me.
But we saw this not right now, but we saw this like up in the White Mountains when the market was hot. It was everything was being negotiated.
Sure.
The things that buyers agreed to do.
Right. Agreed. What can't be negotiated is the fact that it needs to be done.
Okay.
But as far as the payment for it, yes, it does default to the seller. It can be negotiated.
You make septic systems exciting, Kyle.
Aren't they?
Man, you
they're-
are amazing.
This
You only get out what you put into it.
well played.
Is that more dating advice
That's
for Todd? All right, Kyle, I appreciate it. Really good stuff. Leave you with the quote of the day. It's hard to beat a person who never gives up. Babe Ruth. Appreciate everybody joining us. Go out and sell a home.